Hey guys, it's Jordan. On this video, I just want to do, I guess, a little bit of a testimony, I guess you'd word it. So my last video, I was saying that I kind of thought I was pregnant. I had been very tired, and I think it was like the day after I made the video, but it may have been like 2 days after I made the video. Well, I took a pregnancy test, and there was a faint line. So I got my hopes up, and then I started looking at it, and I felt like it may have been an evaporation line. So I put on a local Facebook, not a local Facebook group, but a trying to conceive Facebook group, and they were, just basically like, yeah, we think it's an evaporation line. But they were like, there's still hope, because until your period shows up, there's still hope. So, so I went to bed that night, still hopeful, that this could still happen for us. And so the next morning I woke up, and of course it was here. So I had started, and I was just so upset. I think I had just gotten my hopes up higher than normal just because it was our first round of fertility meds, so I felt like I was finally making headway. And they did my scan to say that I definitely ovulated, and so I just got my hopes up. I was pinning stuff on Pinterest, and I was thinking of how I'd tell Sean, and I just got really excited on accident. And I usually try not to do that, and I just took it really hard. So when I woke up, and I found that out, I was just so upset. Sean took Blakely to school. I just went back to sleep. I was just crying, and I was just probably the most down that I've probably been on this journey. I was just like, my heart was just hurting. I was just so down. I don't even know how to describe it. I was just kind of heartbroken. And my mom had came into town to hang out with me, and so I told her I still wanted to go out, but I was just a complete emotional wreck. And I had made an Instagram post about how, even though it sucked that I started my period, I hadn't been doing that every month ever since forever, and I've been doing that now. My doctor put me on metformin, and so I was trying to, and I put that I was trying to find joy. I wanted my daughter to remember a mother that was happy and that was positive, and even though was so upset, I was like, I just want her to remember me happy. I don't want her to remember me upset. And I was like, I'm going to give myself a day to grieve another month of not having this baby, and I'm going to pick myself back up, and I'm going to keep on trucking. The day was just emotional, and I just posted that on my Instagram that even though I had been looking all morning for something that was could say how I felt. I felt like I was having trouble putting to words how I felt, so I was looking up infertility quotes and stuff that I could kind of put on my infertility Instagram to just kind of explain how I felt, and I couldn't find anything. And I kept seeing this post that was like, it was like a whisper quote, and it was like, I'm happy to see my period come because my body's doing something that it's never done before. And I kept rolling my eyes because I didn't want that to come. I wanted a positive. And I just kept like rolling my eyes, and it didn't matter what forum I was searching for this on, that kept popping up, and I'm like, that has nothing to do with what I'm looking at. Quit popping up. But then eventually I started thinking about it, and I'm like, that is big. I have not been doing that every month since I was like 13, and since I've been on that metformin, and since I've been doing the low carb, that's been coming every month, and I've lost 12 pounds, and that's been more regular. I've felt better just from that happening every month, and I was just like, Jordan, you need to just think about that. Like, you're seeing this. So after I saw it like 5 times, it really hit me that I'm like, this is still a big deal. I may not have gotten what I wanted, but my body is getting regular and correct for the first time in my entire life. And even though that I'm not getting what I want, this is a big deal. So I posted basically on my Instagram that even though it's not what I wanted, this was still a big deal. I was still going to feel better now that my body was working correctly. And, and so, and then I was just going to choose joy, and that's what I was picking today. That's the only thing I could think of that was a positive thing to say, was that at least my body's working correctly. And that I wanted to be happy for my kid. So I was reading this post to my mom in the car on the way to go out, and I was just crying and crying and crying reading this post to her. So we went out to eat, and then and we were going to go see a chick flick. Well, then after we went to go see a chick flick, or after we went out to eat, I was like, let's go to Michael's real quick in between the movie. Michael's is a craft store. They also have planners and stuff. I don't know where you're from and if y'all have those, but that's what it is. It's kind of like a Hobby Lobby. So we went into Michael's, and I was needing a mini planner. And, let me go ahead and say this. I follow people on Instagram, and one of the people I follow on Instagram shared this picture, and it was of a turquoise bike. And I love, there's a turquoise bike they used to carry at Walmart, and I loved this turquoise bike, and it was just kind of like an old school huffy looking bike, and I just thought it was so pretty. And this quote had that type of bike on it, and it was a turquoise bike, and it said, find joy in the journey. And so ever since I've been trying to be intentional about finding joy, I was like, oh, this is perfect for me. So I saved that. I put it as my screensaver on my phone for a little while. I put it on my personal Facebook at one time, a couple weeks or months ago, just that was my goal, was to intentionally find joy. And so I look at this picture often. I don't know what it is about the picture. I just think it's beautiful, and I just love the message, and I just think that should, be the theme of what I'm going through. So anyway, the second I walk into Michael's to get a mini planner for my purse, I walk up, and right square in the front is a planner that has a turquoise bike on it, and it says, enjoy the ride. And a feeling just washed over me. I can't even describe it. I've had times that things have happened in my life that I'm like, well, that was a God thing. And, I'm a Christian. I've always been a Christian. Sometimes not as good of a Christian as other times. And I wouldn't even say not as good. I would say is not as close to God. Times that my priorities weren't right. Wasn't going to church. Wasn't just, or, was going to church, but kind of clicking in and clicking out. And then times that I was very close to God and very involved and very into it and really put Him first. There's just been ups and downs through my relationship with Him. But the second I read the journal or the planner, it was obvious. It hit me so hard like a ton of bricks. I didn't even care that I was in a public place. I just started bawling my eyes out, and I felt Him. And I'm not talking oh, that feels like a God thing. It was so heavy on my body physically. I just 100% knew that He was talking to me, and that does not happen to me. And there was no question, if it would have been maybe said something, any other quote, but it was just it was the quote, it was the picture, and most importantly, it was the feeling. I feel like God, put that feeling on me so that there was no doubt that this was to me. And it felt very much like that, and it just kind of felt like, you just keep finding joy in your journey. I know today's awful, and that you're the most down that you've probably ever been in your life, but just keep finding joy, and you're gonna come out stronger. I just felt I felt like He was directly speaking to me. I just felt like an overwhelming sense of not being alone, and I just felt, I guess I would just say that if I'd ever questioned that there was a God, that there definitely was no question now. And I guess it was more, I guess I started thinking about it, and even though I always believed there was a God, I feel like things worked out for my family. If we needed something, it was there. I always felt, even as a kid growing up, I felt like, if our car broke down or something, money, something would happen with money where we got money and it just happened to work out. I just felt like God working actively in my life. I've always felt that. I've always felt that. But I've never just felt like he was directly speaking to me. And no, you couldn't hear it, but it was loud and clear for me. And it was just a very good feeling, and it hit me that if I wasn't struggling with infertility, I would have never felt that. And it's a moment that I'm always going to hold on to. I'll always know it's there, and if I ever feel alone, I know that he's there because I felt him. There's just no question. And I had been kind of before we had kind of taken a break from church, and we had just started going back. My daughter, every time we'd bring her, would freak out. Every time we took her to class, she would get hysterical. They'd call us back out to go get her, and church just became a stressful situation because she wouldn't go to class, and I didn't want to get up and go all the way down there just to, for her not to go into class. And so we put her in a Mother's Day Out program. That way she would get used to it. And so I'd been praying like, hey, she's been going to Mother's Day Out for a while, but she was still crying every time I dropped her off. And I had said, that the first time once I dropped her off, that she wasn't crying, that we'd start going to church. Well, a couple weeks ago, she stopped crying when I dropped her. She didn't cry at all when I dropped her off, and she went straight in. I was like, oh, well, now we're going. And we went. She didn't shed a tear at church. She loves it. She begs to go. So things just feel like they're falling into place for us. For me specifically. So I feel like, this journey has not been, there's been some lonely things about it. There's been sad things about it. There's been hard things about it, but I'm finding that being intentional with finding joy is a helpful tool. I've made a lot of close relationships with people I know in real life, people I don't. But they're people that I feel like God's put there with me. I'm able to be an encouragement to other people, and them an encouragement to me. I feel like my relationship with God is a lot stronger. I feel like I'm simplifying life a lot more because I mentally just can't handle a lot right now. And I feel like it's all been very good. I just want, after we finish this journey, to come out stronger than we were. I want our marriage to be stronger. I want our finances to be stronger. I want us to be stronger people in general, and I feel like that is happening. So I just wanted to share what happened to me, and feel free to comment and share your experiences. Anyways, I hope this helps someone not feel so alone, and so that's my story.